Longest delay ever there between the cheap, shitey, copyright-free music and the intro actually kicking off. Well, hello and welcome into this Tuesday's Movie News. I am Jonathan C. Walsh, here to discuss the latest happenings from the world of Hollywood and beyond, looking at myself in the camera or in the actual OBS capture, and my god, I look fucking horrific. I look like a man knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Wow, what is this? I don't know, but look, it doesn't matter. I'm here to discuss movie news, and movie news I shall discuss for the next 30 minutes or so. Just the three topics on the show tonight. This is the headline. If you have clicked on the thumbnail, and Lord knows why the fuck would you have clicked on that thumbnail, not my best work, it has to be said, not my best work at all, then you will know what I am discussing primarily on this show. Tonight I was initially, to quote Alan Partridge, initially for the rest of the world, going to be speaking about Tarantino besmirching, crying into his enormous pillow about Marvel movies, and the man who brought Shang-Chi to life, Simu coming out and criticising those who attack Marvel on social media. That has been bumped down to the second topic of the show tonight, because in my longing search for movie news, I stumbled across multiple articles on Empire regarding the upcoming Indiana Jones 5. This particular article wetted the juices quite a bit. Not just the anticipatory juices, but just the juices in general were flowing when I read this. My dog was in the room. He wasn't reading it though. Yeah, de-aging. Indiana Jones 5 set to de-age. Not set to, fucking de-aging Indy back to the Raiders of the Lost Ark era, the original Trilogy era version for the opening sequence of the fifth installment in the franchise. This is great news to me. Not only is it great news because, one, this is what we all remember and sort of harken back to with this character. The youthful 40-something Harrison Ford, cracking whips, running away from boulders, snapping Nazis left, right and centre. But it kind of ties into something we discussed last night. We actually discussed this on the show last night, and I'm going to furiously try and bring up the cast of Indiana Jones 5, and I'm going to fucking butcher it, try to do it, but I will bring up the cast of Indiana Jones 5. And there was someone in that cast that caught our attention. That someone being a man renowned for doing Harrison Ford, doing the characters of 40-something Harrison Ford. That man's name is quite simply Anthony Ingruber. Anthony Ingruber, synonymous with young Harrison Ford. They are now de-aging Harrison. Are they actually de-aging Harrison, or will it be Anthony Ingruber doing the sort of heavy lifting with the aged face of Harrison Ford popping up for close sequences? I don't know. But this news, hot on the heels of that revelation, for us anyway, the rest of the world may have been aware of Anthony's inclusion in this movie. Yeah, I put 2 and 2 together and came up with 20. And really looking forward to this movie in general, but the articles discussing this movie that I'm going to go through systematically before moving on, just elevating my anticipation for this to ungodly levels. But this one here, it was James Mangold, he was out speaking about it, presumably to Empire, because they have done a special for Indiana Jones 5. Incidentally, there is a poster, and I think it's an actual Empire poster. I will find it's on another article, which is just stunning, absolutely phenomenal looking poster for Indiana Jones. And if I could get my hands on it, sans Empire, it would be on my fucking wall, I'm telling you. But this is what I had to say, James, about this de-aging of the opening sequence. This to say, I wanted the chance to dive into this kind of full-on George and Stephen old picture and give the audience an adrenaline blast. He says, and obviously the solution, a set piece that dials the clock back to 1944. Set in a castle swarming with Nazis, that's the best setting for an indie movie, let's be honest. Through the miracle of de-aging technology, we are going back towards Raiders era indie. And then we fall out and you find yourself in 1969. Incidentally, the leaked script from about 18 months ago regarding space age, Nazis infiltrating NASA, it's all true. That is the fucking script for this movie. That is the film we are getting. We spoke about this movie last night. All about them sort of rewriting the script to poke jabs playfully at Harrison's elderly state. In fact, he's an older man now. Not the version of Indiana Jones we have probably been accustomed to, obviously. Even the fourth one was a good, 10 years ago or something like that. It was a while back. And Harrison was a little bit younger then, perhaps a bit more sprightly. I'm not saying he's zipping around with his Zimmer frame. He's a fit man, but he is older. That is the just blatant facts of the matter. But what I digress, in the midst of that discussion about that particular reveal from Mangold, we did speak about potential scripts, potential stories. I spoke about this, Operation Paperclip, I think it was. I keep saying that. I don't think it is Operation Paperclip. I think Operation Paperclip was Adolf Eichmann. I think that may have been Operation Paperclip. There was an operation to bring top scientists to these states and acquiesce them into their space programme. Spoke about it. It's been confirmed. That is happening. 1969 is the setting. And as you can see, he goes on to say, tangents aside, back into it, Mangold explains the transition to the main action of the film, so that the audience doesn't experience the change between the 40s and 60s as an intellectual conceit, but literally experiences the buccaneering spirit of those early days, and then the beginning of now. I love that, man. It could backfire tremendously. We could get a little bit of what made Indiana so special 30 odd years ago, and then we're thrust into the reality of Father Time and the effects on Harrison, and we're left longing for the younger version. That could backfire. We could want more of de-aged Harrison. We could want more of potentially Anthony and Gruber doing some lifting in some way in those younger sequences. But likewise, it could work beautifully. It could give us just that itch, that scratching of the itch, just enough, and then we build into the older version, and we just let it marinate nicely over the next hour and a half, 2 hours or so. I've got high hopes, man, for this opening sequence. I've got high hopes for the de-aging that has come on some way since, when I think back, man, the first instance I can cast my mind back to would probably be Kurt Russell, perhaps, in a sort of mainstream sense. Maybe in Guardians 2, may have been Robert Downey Jr. in Age of Ultron. I think it was Age of Ultron, may have been Civil War. There has been de-aging done previously to different sort of levels of brilliance. Obviously Grand Moff Tarkin fully realised and brought back to life with that Guy something actor doing it. But the game has been upped with this de-aging. We've seen it get progressively better and better. We've of course seen Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson in Captain Marvel, and that was really, really good. And of course now we have Harrison Ford speaking about the de-aging, about the attention to detail in this opening sequence. Several techniques were employed to pull the sequence off, including new ILM software that trawled through archived material of the younger Harrison Ford before matching it to the freshly shot footage. The original Raiders jacket was even pulled out of storage, possibly from the sprawling Area 51 warehouse, and tried back on by Ford before being replicated Fred for Fred. My hope is that although it will be talked about in terms of technology, you just watch it and go, oh my god, they found the footage. This was a thing they shot 40 years ago. This is Kathleen Kennedy speaking. We're dropping you into an adventure, something Indy is looking for, and instantly you have that feeling I'm in an Indiana Jones movie. Well look man, I spoke about that last night. There's something special, something indelible about Indiana Jones. You watch the movies, you're thrust into a different world. It's not quite the same as his performance as Han Solo on literal alien worlds. This has familiarity. This is on sort of terra firma on Earth. But you're whisked away to this sort of fantasy setting. And it's larger than life. It's blissful escapism. There's an energy about those original Indiana Jones movies that I don't think has been replicated by any other action movie in the ensuing 30-40 years that have passed. Something special about those movies. And if they can just capture that one last time, be it from Harrison, be it from the whole cast, be it from James Mangold's brilliant direction, Kathleen Kennedy's brilliant producing, then we could have something special here. It would be a lovely bookend. Because Harrison, and I'm going to go on to him, is speaking about this final iteration and what guided his decision making to come back. And it just, the stars seem to be aligning with this movie. The fact you've got the usual dickheads coming out, criticising it, 2 weeks into production, maybe not even that. The usual faces on YouTube with agendas, anti-woke stuff, going after this movie before it was barely even in the fucking can, any part of it. That's as good as a certainty for me that this movie is going to be at least fucking very good, because when those guys hate it, it's usually good. This is what he said, obviously, Harrison, regarding coming face to face with his younger self. He said this is the first time I've seen it where I believe it. It's a little spooky. I don't think I even want to know how it works. So incidentally, Tron had de-aging as well, I'm pretty sure. But it works. Not that he's pining to return to the time of the original Indy movies. It doesn't make me want to be young though. I'm glad to have earned my age. Or as a certain adventuring archaeologist once put it, it's not the years, it's the mileage. And look, that's an important thing. It has to be stressed as I get the intro again. Assaulting my eyeballs. Look, age, people speak from a wide variety of different parts of society about age as if it's a bad thing. Well, they've got older. They've got a couple of more lines on their face. In some cases, a lot more lines on their face. They look like a fucking road map. But age is not something to be getting down about. It's something that's earned. It's a privilege many don't get to achieve. And I'm truly blessed to be sharing a world with Harrison. Not only as a younger person when he was in his prime years, but even now when he's knocking on 80, if not already in his 80s, still doing these movies, still getting up there, flying planes, living life at its absolute largest. I respect this man no end, to no end. He is one of the great actors of his generation of all time, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what he gives us, not only in this de-aged opening sequence, but in the movie as a whole, the performance he's going to bring. Because he's always loved Indiana Jones. It's always been his baby in terms of mainstream movies that he's been involved in. And I want nothing more than to see this guy get out with a bang. So he's absolutely fucking bang on what he said there. He's glad to have earned the age whilst enjoying the goodiness that comes from the de-aging of that opening sequence, which I can't fucking wait to see. Moving on to something connecting to Indiana Jones, though, there's 4 topics and I like all of them. This one in particular, I really like, because we discussed this last night, and I was theorising that this could be the actual script. Then Ben Travis of Empire fucking drops this the very night we are speaking about it, and confirms that this is indeed the script. It's taking place in this timeline. And this is the concept, the leaked script, the space age, the Nazis, Indy not being happy about it, him and Mads Mikkelsen pursuing a similar thing. It all sounds very fucking promising to me. But as you can see here, Empire can reveal that Indiana Jones 5 finds your hero in 1969, a good age, a good year. We were getting the likes of Abbey Road coming out from the Beatles, the likes of Let It Be, some fucking really good singles coming out as well, brilliant music, sort of end of flower power. Earth was starting to come crashing down around, Vietnam was happening, Sidney Poitier was still doing his fucking magic as an actor. It was a good year, 1969. I say that because I think of In the Heat of the Night, but I think that was a couple of years before. One of my all-time favourite movies. But what I'm saying, it's a good fucking year, and it's a good setting. And this is what I had to say about that setting, Empire. That is Ben Travis, more particularly. I had this to say, the simple fact is that the moon, this is actually not, this is Jez Butterworth. Who the fuck is that? It's the co-writer of the movie. Backdrop of the space age, the American effort to beat the Russians to the moon brings with it some uncomfortable truths for Indy, if I can speak. And this is what Butterworth had to say. You listen to a man with that surname because it is sublime. The simple fact is that the moon landing programme was run by a bunch of ex-Nazis. How ex they are is the question, and it gets up Indy's nose, pitching Indiana, a man who was always looking to the secrets of the earth rather than the stars, into the era of the astronaut, finds him even more a man out of time. It's not just that the model of what a hero is has completely changed. It's not just that we are looking for something where there's nothing up there. It's like Reno without the gambling. Reno without the gambling. I don't know how to say that. Or whatever his line is. But the people that are behind it are, his sworn enemies. And I spoke about it. The opening sequence will feature a castle full of Nazis. Will feature Indiana taking them down. And here we are, we have Nazis acquiescing into American society, put into high-falutin positions within the fucking space organisation that is NASA, fronting the efforts to beat the Soviets to the moon. That is the backdrop of this movie. I loved it the very moment I read about it 18 months ago. There was a leak. It blew me away. I thought that is a phenomenal fucking script. That is a phenomenal backdrop for an Indiana Jones movie. You then marry that with Thomas Kretschmann coming in. You marry that with Mads Mikkelsen playing villainous Fowler. Oh my days, man, if this movie isn't good, I will be stunned. Mangold, what a director. Harrison, pumped, ready to go out with a bang. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, one of the most talented people in the industry just now, in this fucking movie, playing his granddaughter. I'll speak about that in a moment. All the sort of German faces, it's just got the core pieces to make it magic. And I sincerely hope it is. I love the story. But this is what Mikkelsen had to say. Everyone's favourite Danish actor, who I'm sure can speak fluent German. If he can't, I'll be disappointed. He had this to say. Almost, playing his real life counterpart, Werner von Braun. He was the man, main Nazi guy, who overseen people getting hung. Jewish people. Didn't oversee it, but he actually seen it happening and didn't take a stand. He was on the side of the Nazis. This man became the head of NASA. That's in real life. This is who he's kind of playing. He said this. He's a man who would like to correct some of the mistakes of the past. There is something that could make the world a much better place to live in. He would love to get his hands on it. Indiana Jones wants to get his hands on it as well. And so we have a story. Man, I love this. I really do. I really do love it. I love the backdrop. I cannot wait to see Mads Mikkelsen playing a villain in Indiana Jones. That's another person I love tremendously. I'm well on board for it. Another person I love, just getting right into it. Sort of fucking omnibus of articles regarding Indiana Jones 5. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Incredible writer, incredible actor. I think she produces as well. She's playing the granddaughter of Indiana in this movie. We theorised last night before getting this information who she could be playing, who the baton could be passed on to. I'm not suggesting for one moment that Phoebe Waller-Bridge will become the next sort of titular hero in a spin-off Indiana Jones franchise. I think she's too busy for that personally. But I did say last night, with his sort of elderly age now, he is an older man, he can't run about like he did 40 years ago. Someone on the younger end of the age spectrum connected to Indiana in this movie would have to do some heavy lifting in terms of action, in terms of the more energetic moments in the movie. And it seems like it may be Phoebe Waller-Bridge who's doing it. Now we've got a number of young faces in there. Lord knows, your man's in there from the previous movie. Why am I blanking on his name? I do not know. Shia LaBeouf. He's seemingly in the cast as well, which confuses me because he shouldn't be, but apparently he is. So there is potential to have numerous young faces doing heavy lifting, but what I digress, we're not there to speak about them. We're there to speak about Phoebe Waller-Bridge because she has been out speaking to Empire as well about this movie. She said this: she's a mystery and a wonder. She's slippery charming, the girl next door, a grifter. And Harrison Ford said this: she's a pioneer in ethical accounting. And for the actor, it all sprang from a conversation with Kathleen Kennedy. Kathy was in London and having dinner. Was this, did I read that right? Was in London and asked to have dinner with me. And casually mentioned this. I immediately ordered 10 bottles of wine. That's my kind of person. Then it was the fastest I've ever read a script. I came out of a sort of haze afterwards. I just couldn't believe how much fun I had and how moved I was by it. And then I had a zoom and screamed yes at them all. So, in a sense, I guess what I'm taking from this is that not only is the core fundamentals there for a script, but Harrison's well on board for it. I could speak, and I will bring it back up. I'll look at what Harrison had to say about his potential final turn as Indiana. But the whole cast seemed to be very infused by the script. They seemed to be very infused by what Mangold is presenting in terms of directing the gig. His reputation on previous movies, he's a fantastic director. I think of Ford v Ferrari. Logan, this guy knows what he's doing. You think of Logan, you think of bookending epic stories of one man synonymous with a character. Also Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. Mangold gave us a special ending for that character. He gave us a special movie that had laughs, it had really low emotive moments. Also with Patrick Stewart, Charles Xavier, the whole dementia thing. He gave us brilliant villains. Some not so good villains. I think it was 2 villains, potentially 3. I need to go back and watch that movie. Point is, it was a fucking epic movie. But on that aside, man, it seems like all of the actors who are not Harrison Ford are blown away by the script as well. They're reading it and they're buying into it right away. They want to be involved with this movie. So for me, it's all aligning. I think we've got something really special here. And I simply cannot fucking wait until this movie comes out. I'm going to briefly bring this up and I'm going to read what Harrison Ford had to say about his last turn, potentially, as Indiana Jones. And he had this to say. Where is it? Here it is here, I believe. It's full of fun, it's full of adventure, full of laughs, full of real emotion, and it's complex and it's sneaky. The shooting of it was tough and long and arduous, but I'm very happy with the film that we have. He goes on to say, I'm pretty sure he says something. Yeah, this was it here. I just thought it would be nice to see one where Indiana Jones was at the end of his journey. If a script came along that I felt gave me a way to extend the character, he'd also jump on it, and he has jumped on it. This is the whole age thing we spoke about last night. I'm not going to go over old ground with that, but needless to say, that's such an interesting concept, because you think of Indiana Jones, you think of the character, you think of the franchise, and it's eternal. Everything that's put to film, that is photographed, that is fucking painted, it becomes immortalised in that vein, in that form. So to think of him coming to the end of his story, it's something that you don't even think of, it doesn't spring to mind. So to realise that you've got Harrison thinking about that pre a movie even being a thing, pre a script, want to see it out, see the character out to its natural end, because we got it with also Han Solo as well in The Force Awakens. I just think that's beautiful. This is a guy synonymous with the character. He's been doing it for 40 years, for good and bad, and I still maintain the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, or whatever the fuck it was called, as a fundamentally bad movie. I just think it's poetic and special to see him speaking in such a way about an utterly iconic film character in Indiana, that he wants to bring it to an end, that he is willingly getting into this movie knowing the end is nigh, and he's going to give it his fucking all. That again is another reason why this movie should be special. When you've got a man of his brilliance knowing the end is nigh for a character so special, so close to his heart, he's got to give it everything. He's got to give 120%. I know that's not a proper fucking thing. 100, I know. He's going to give it everything. And surely that will be palpable in the performance. And it'll rub off on everyone else. I sincerely hope it does. What's your thoughts though, man? If you get anything to say about Indiana Jones 5, all the things I discussed, the opening sequence being de-aged, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the script being set in amongst these space age Nazis infiltrating, 1969, Indy as a whole, Harrison speaking about the end, speaking about the age, and comment down below if you've got anything to say down below in the comment section. That's the place to put it. And I'm moving on now to the second topic. Simu Liu, he's been out hitting back at anti-Marvel remarks. He's been out hitting back at Tarantino, and guess who? Martin Scorsese, who I don't think's opened his mouth regarding Marvel in quite a number of years now, but is still getting absolutely murdered for those theme park sort of comparisons that he drew about 2 years ago. But yeah, Simu's been out. I'm going to prefix it with putting Quentin's remarks into context and reading what he actually said about Marvel movies. I actually don't think they're that bad. He's not coming out and slaughtering the concept of a superhero movie. He's not coming out and saying they're rubbish, that they are just money-making schemes like Stephen Dorff said about a year ago, if you remember him. But he has said a couple of things which I think are untrue. This notion that there is no other kind of movie being made other than superhero movies or Marvel movies. The notion that they're dominating everything and that no other kind of movie can get legroom, because you just have to look at Quentin's movie that he brought out a couple of years ago. More Than held its own with all the Marvel movies. It was a huge hit. People loved it in the main. It drew Oscar buzz. I went and seen that movie twice in the theatres, which is more than I've seen some Marvel movies recently. So it's not true. But look, we'll read the man's words anyway. This is what Quentin had to say. Look, I used to collect Marvel comics like crazy when I was a kid. There's an aspect that if these movies were coming out when I was in my 20s, I would totally be fucking happy and totally love them. I mean, they wouldn't be the only movies being made. They would be those movies amongst other movies. But you know, I'm almost 60. So yeah, no, I'm not quite as excited about them. You see, you should be the exact guy these movies are being made for though, Quentin. A lifelong geek who grew up with the comics, who wished that they could be done right. Justice could be served with these movies, with these stories on the silver screen, and now they are being served. They are being delivered to millions of eyeballs the way they should have been all along. Now that technology is there, it's ripe and able to deliver these epic set pieces. You're the exact person these movies should be for, but of course he is a lover of all things film, a fucking encyclopedia of knowledge in all things film, and I don't expect this guy to love every single Marvel movie. It would be against the grain for Quentin. Quentin is a absolute fucking film fanatic on another level, another universe, and he's seen so much, and he will always draw comparisons, and nothing's going to quite be good enough in this genre, I feel, for Quentin. So he gets a buy, and as I says, he isn't fucking slaughtering them. We'll get into it. They would be the cited about them. My only axe to grind against them is they're the only things that seem to be made. I disagree with that. That's just not true. That is incorrect. And they're the only things that seem to generate any kind of excitement amongst the fan base, or even for the studio making them. Well, I mean, it's demographics. It's a demographic game, Quentin. The people they are built and made for get excited about them. Likewise, there is a whole demographic of film-going audience who fucking detest Marvel movies, hate them, and go and watch other kinds of movies. There is a demographic of people who straddle both sides of the divide, who love some of the Marvel movies, are able to bring themselves to call out shit when they see it, even if it's from Marvel, and equally love every other kind of fucking genre that is put to film. They aren't all consuming. They aren't the only movies being made. They aren't the only movies generating excitement amongst film fan bases. It's just factually incorrect. And I never thought I'd be sitting on this channel, some unknown prick from Glasgow, trying to give education to Quentin Tarantino about film, because he knows so much more than I could ever dream. He's forgot more than I could ever hope to know. But he's wrong here. He really is. In my opinion, they're not the only movies drawing excitement out of fandoms. It's fucking untrue. But this is what he had to say. He went on to say this. And even for the studios making them, that's what they're excited about. And so it's just the fact that they're the entire representation of this era of movies right now. There's not really much room for anything else. That's my problem. We've seen this says time and time again. And of course you've got this whole stuff down here where you do have people speaking with different opinions, rightly suggesting that it was the actual Marvel movies that maybe kept theatre chains and the theatre going experience alive for future audiences over the last 5, 6, 7 years, when and the main originality was being zapped out of Hollywood. Studios weren't making new interesting ideas outside of a Nolan, outside of a Tarantino, outside of a Scorsese. Even Scorsese's not doing anything original now. He's been making the same movie for 30 fucking years. When you have a dearth of originality, a dearth of brilliant new ideas, you're rehashing, remaking, doing quasi-sequels, soft reboots, whatever you want to fucking call it. In an industry like that, where people are growing apathetic about film, and piracy's increasing, and streaming services is sort of all encompassing, you need movies like this to keep the theatres alive, because a fucking rom-com starring Meg Ryan isn't going to generate $1 billion worth of box office. It ain't going to get bums on seats. It never did. News alert, it never fucking did. You need movies like this. There has always been movies like this in film. Jurassic Park, 30 years ago. I went to watch it when I was a kid. It wasn't the only fucking thing out, but there was a Jurassic Park franchise, and there was fucking Tim Burton doing Batman. There was always superhero movies to some extent. It's just that they weren't making the money they're making now, and rubbing people up the wrong way. There has always been popular films out there. There's always been brilliant independent movies. There's always been crime dramas, thrillers, and even now there's brilliant independent movies, there's brilliant crime dramas, there's brilliant thrillers. You go to India, they're making some fucking incredible movies on the subcontinent. It's like the whole music argument. Music is dead. All this poppy crap is dominating. What happened to music? It's still fucking there. If you look for it, there's still great music out there, and there's still great film out there. But look, Simu had this to say about the remarks of Quentin Tarantino and about Martin Scorsese. He had this to say on Twitter. If the only gatekeepers to movie stardom came from Tarantino and Scorsese, I would never have had the opportunity to lead a $400 million plus movie. I am in awe of their filmmaking genius. They are transcendent auteurs, but they don't get to point their nose at me or anyone. No movie studio is or ever will be perfect, but I'm proud to work with the one that has sustained efforts to improve diversity on screen by creating heroes that empower and inspire people of all communities everywhere. I loved the Golden Age too, but it was white as hell, and it fucking was. It was white as hell. Let's be honest here. I didn't even get into that point. The power of good Marvel has done in terms of diversifying casts, of giving us a Black Panther with a pretty much full black cast, inspiring a generation of young black kids to come up and try and become actors in their own right. When perhaps they thought that avenue was closed, that door was shut. Obviously Simu, starring in a predominantly American Asian, Canadian Asian in his case, movie, with the celebration of that culture and the inspiration that gives. Obviously that particular part of the world has its own thriving, incredible industries as well, and they don't really need that kind of inspiration. They have always been doing it, and probably doing it better than the West for a number of years. But needless to say, it's great to see that diversity being explored, being championed by a studio the size of Disney. And great to see someone like Simu coming out and fucking saying it like it is. They have gave him a chance, a fairly youngish guy, of leading a huge movie where he would have not a hope in hell of getting that chance. And again, what that does for young kids from that background coming up. Even now we're seeing people of Asian backgrounds in America getting abused over here, getting abused because of their race, because of their appearance. It's utterly backwards. It's pathetic, abhorrent. This is the power of Marvel, what it can do. It brings people together. It's been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years in the comic books, and now it's continuing to do it with movies. It brings people from all walks of life together to celebrate and experience something as a community. I don't understand why people continue to stick the boot in. It's really, really strange. I'm not saying Tarantino did it there, he didn't. But he kind of did by saying it's the only movie being made. Quite frankly, if you can't generate excitement for your movie, it's not because of Marvel. It's because your movie's fucking shit, and you've done a bad job of promoting it. So get better, get good. That's what I would say. Not to Quentin. Quentin's fucking amazing. But to other directors and Stephen Dorff. But look, man, what's your thoughts on the anti-Marvel remarks of these sort of established directors, filmmakers, what's your thoughts on Simu's comeback? What's your thoughts on film of today? Is it diversified? Is Marvel dominating in your opinion? Do you agree with Quentin? Do you disagree? Share your thoughts down below. If you've got anything to say down below in the comment section, that's the place to put it. And we shall read them. We will get back to them if you do. I'm moving on though to the final topic of the show tonight, this morning, because it's now 12:06 AM. And it's about Across the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2. Across the Spider-Verse. And it's Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Chris Miller and Phil Lord. Even now I'm not entirely sure what name is the correct one. But needless to say, they've been out speaking about the different art styles that are going to make up this movie. Going to be the heart and soul, the heartbeat of this movie, if you'd like. Incidentally, an exclusive image released. And what a fucking image it is. Let's bring it up. Look at that image. Just bring it up. Fantastic. Love that. As someone who regards himself as a bit of an artist as well, I have got undoubted talent with brushes and all sorts of other medium. I appreciate this, what I'm seeing here. The little sort of bits of paint that are flicking across the screen, mimicking motion. I love this shit. It's absolutely fantastic. And I love what these geniuses at this studio are doing with this movie. In a sense, trying to better this, for me anyway, the second best Spider-Man movie ever made is a tough fucking challenge. But from what I'm seeing here, what I'm reading, looks as though they're definitely on course to perhaps do it. Just the actual concept of the story. These two youthful protagonists in Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales continuing this adventure, this multiversal adventure. The sort of interesting villain who has like portals on his body or something like that. It's weird, can't really hit him. He's a bit unbeatable. Of course he will be beatable. All of the sort of moving mechanisms in this movie are just wondrous. And then you get into the actual art styles, which of course was a huge part of the first movie. These different versions of Spider-Man coming with their different artistic styles, meshing together into a strange setting, but of course a very grounded setting. Because even though these multiversal Spider-Men, women, pigs were coming in, it was very much in Miles's playground. It was in his world. And they were just like fish out of a bowl, if you like. I don't think that's the correct term, but you know what I mean. They weren't belonging to this universe. They were different, the universe was the same, that's what I'm trying to say. And this one, it looks as though it's going to be different. It's going to be Spider-Gwen and Miles traversing different universes. They're going to be in completely different transformative locations, different styles surrounding them. By all accounts, we got a fucking teaser. I went back and watched it. It was fucking epic. And it kind of ties into what they're saying here. As you can see here, I don't know who it is, it's saying it. It's Phil Lord, so it's Chris Miller and Phil Lord. Phil Lord. Nearly had a brain fucking stroke there, where I can't say things correctly. That's a slippery fucking slope. When you've got someone on a show to back you up, on your lonesome, that is death. If my brain doesn't die, I am fucking dying. Because it's impossible to get out. But I didn't get down that slope, it's fine. This is what Phil had to say. The first film had one animation style that dominates the movie, as I said. Different iterations of Spider-Man, woman, pig, different artistic styles, one world dominating the actual artistic style. He says this movie has 6. So we're taking those tools, adding all the things we learned on the Mitchells versus the Machines, and then growing them further to accommodate the ambition of this movie, which is to wow you every time you enter a new environment, and also to make sure that the style of the movie reflects the story, and that the images are driven by feelings, as opposed to some egg-headed art project, which it also is, by the way. And I love that, as I say, someone who's into art, who's always been into art, who's always been gifted at art. Seeing art like this being created in cinematic form, it's special. It's why I love the first Spider-Verse movie so much. Just the different artistic styles, knowing what it takes to craft that. The fact they crafted like 7 individual movies so they all had their own perspectives and could mesh it together. The fact it was animated within a sort of live action setting, they actually adhered to live action settings. It was as if they shot on location with animated characters. I just appreciate that level of detail, and you can see what it lended to the movie. The movie was fucking special. It was a great experience, one of the best superhero movies ever made for me. And I said for me the second best Spider-Man movie ever made. To better that, to try and up the stakes, I had doubts on where they could go. How can you better that movie? It's nearly perfection. But I'm really, really enjoying what they're doing here. I really enjoyed the teaser. I don't know how we missed it. But as you can see here, this is what actual Christopher Miller had to say. He sort of further embellished upon that point. It says the two that you saw in the teaser trailer were what's called Air 5101, which we are calling Mumbattan. That's based on an Indian comic book. Look, I've seen the teaser. Fucking great, even the music. It had Indian inspired music. It was absolutely fucking one of the most coolest things I've seen. Seeing them going through these multiversal portals into these different locations. Just so cool. And just the fact they're capturing it, man, with the, as I says, the music, the vibes, the artistic styles. It's so fucking cool. Really, really cool direction to go for this movie. I love what they're doing here. That's based on Indian comic book. Look, and Nueva York from Spider-Man 2099's world. That's based on Sid Mead's style illustration of what the future might look like. That's all. There's also Gwen's world, which is Earth 65, and that was a watercolour wash style that's reminiscent of the covers of her comic books. Miles Morales' journey has only just begun. As they say, the Spider-Verse awaits. Loving it. Loving the fact they are expanding upon not only this movie, but as it says, the Mitchells versus the Machines, I think it was. Taking everything, the sort of accumulated knowledge, experience of working with different animations, working in this sort of genre, and just throwing everything at this fucking sequel, which is sure to be utterly fucking epic, man. I maintain, as much as I love Marvel and Disney and what they've done, Sony are still the undisputed fucking kings when it comes to Spider-Man. They simply are. They have made utterly brilliant Spider-Man movies. There's been a couple of abominations, but in the main, their record is great. They've got the right people on board here with Lord and Miller, two brilliant filmmakers, producers, who seem to be really inspired and obviously enveloped in this world, in this character of Miles. And just the further sort of influence of Gwen as well in there, who I fully believe has a place in live action at some point. You talk about inspiring sort of demographics. How inspiring would it be to have a female Spider-Man, woman, Spider-Gwen, in live action form? Not that we need to be replaced in this version, because this is every bit as inspiring, and it will touch the same demographic, the same younger audience, and inspire them. But just seeing Spider-Gwen, man, in live action, doing her thing with that incredible suit, be fucking cool as hell. But man, I love this. I love the different art styles. You're getting a brief glimpse of it in that photograph that I'm going to bring back up again. It's just so fucking cool. It really is. I was going to touch upon this. I'm not going to touch upon this anymore. It was cut. I just forgot to delete it. Forgot to get rid of it. It's just so cool, man. So cool. I'm really looking forward to this movie. Cannot wait. I'm counting down the fucking days and the weeks to see if they can manage the impossible and actually top Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Looking forward to it. What's your thoughts on it though? As I've said with every other fucking topic I've touched upon, you can comment down below if you've got anything to say about the expansion of these different artistic styles concept, taking it from singular characters, coming into one dominant style, expanding it out to actually 6 different locations, parallel universes with different artistic styles, that now we have got 2 sort of, well, I mean, it's the gang are coming back together with some new faces as well, but they're actually traversing different art styles. Share your thoughts down below if you've got anything to say about that down below in the comment section is the place to put it. All that leaves me to say is I am fucking done. It is the back of 12 AM here. I am done speaking. I'm going to round it up. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon. You get notifications straight to your eyeballs if you've enjoyed what you've seen here. You can like the video as well if you've enjoyed it. Hit the follow button and the notifications button over on Twitch to see us live over there, Monday through Wednesday. Most weeks, sometimes we'll skip a day, but 9 times out of 10 it will be Monday through Wednesday. That's how you enable seeing the notifications the moment we actually do a live show. Regardless of what you do though, man, all it leaves me to say is thank you very much for fucking watching, and until the next time, I am done.